Town of Adams Board of Selectmen's meeting is now in session, Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. Could everyone please stand and join the Board of Selectmen in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of minutes, May 18th, 2022. And I believe we have an update to this set of minutes. Page 3, under Article 4, you can see highlighted in red and yellow is 2019. What was it before?
2020.
Thank you. So in your motion, if you could keep that in mind.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes and approve them with the amendment on page 3 as you outlined for Wednesday, May 18th, 2022.
Motion by Christine. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Second by Howard. Anything else? Any other updates, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. Unanimous decision. Public comment. Anyone in the audience who would like to address the Board of Selectmen with anything other than what's on the agenda this evening? Okay. You'll move on. Under new business, ratification of DPW skilled laborer, Anthony Fiore. I have a letter, I believe we all do, from Town Administrator Jay Green, and I will read that letter. This letter is to advise the Board of Selectmen that subject to the Board's ratification, as provided in Section 10 of the Town Charter, Anthony Fiore has been appointed to the position of skilled laborer for the Department of Public Works. This appointment fills a vacancy resulting from the resignation and will bring the DPW workforce back to full staffing with 13 positions filled. During his interview, Mr. Fiore displayed a positive attitude and eagerness to obtain full-time employment with benefits and is ready to immediately begin work. Mr. Fiore also demonstrated that he understands the requirements of the position, including the physical nature of the work. He will begin this position on or about June 2nd, 2022, subject to successfully meeting all of the town's hiring requirements at a step 4 rate of $18.95 per hour. Respectfully, Jay Green, Town Administrator. Anything else, Jay?
No, there's 4 applicants for the position. 1 withdrew. We interviewed 3, and Mr. Fiore was the top candidate of that. And this brings us back up to full budgeted staffing at 13.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to ratify the appointment of Anthony Fiore to the skilled laborer position in the Department of Public Works at the step 4 rate of $18.95 per hour.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
We have a second. Any discussion?
I'll bring up my usual question. Is Mr. Fiore Adams resident?
Mr. Fiore was the top candidate, and he happens to be an Adams resident. Yep.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, unanimous decision. Next, presentation by ComSonics, Shine Wire, Greg Shine and John Taylor.
Mr. John Taylor. So early May, was that when? It seems like it was yesterday. I had the privilege of going over to Shine Wire, which has been a long-time employer here in Adams. Greg was kind and gave me a lot of family history about how his father brought the business, morphed the business from the Sprague Electric world, and how they started it in Adams. We walked around the plant. It was a great tour. I don't really think people can appreciate what we manufacture here in Adams, but the purpose of the visit was to inform us that ShineWire was sold to a company called ComSonics. I had the privilege of meeting Mr. John Taylor, one of their vice presidents, who, for lack of a better term, is excited about being here in Adams. So I don't want to steal their thunder. I just wanted to say, John, Greg, I appreciated the time that you spent with me, and we're grateful. I think I speak for everybody that you're staying here in Adams. So,
Thank you.
take it away.
Yeah, I wanted just a couple of quick minutes to say thank you for having me. Again, Jay, thank you for visiting, and, thanks for listening here. Hopefully we're bringing a lot of really good news today. In a broken world that we have, we can bring a little light, and as we like to say, we like to shine around here. So let's go back to 1984. Sprague was moving out of North Adams. 4,000 jobs were leaving. My dad at the time was president and said, guess what? I don't believe in that philosophy. We're staying here. I believe in the people. I believe in the community. Let's start something. Are you interested? We had a phone and a paper clip. A guy named John Barrett said, come over and see me, gave us some mill space, and we started a business. We had no business plan. We had no idea what we wanted to do, other than my dad kept on saying, I think it's wire and cable, because that has the longest life expectancy of any electronic component going today on the market. Well, I guess it does, even with things going wireless. So we decided to get into the wire and cable business as a distributor in 1984. But the main purpose was to put people to work. He was so fond of the area and the people, he didn't want to leave. And he wanted to do something in his small way to keep people employed. So we started hiring some Sprague people, and we grew and we grew, and we grew out of space in North Adams, and we ended up moving to Adams. There was some land at the Northern Berkshire Industrial Park and Development Corp., and we bought a parcel of land, put up about a 15,000 square foot building, and shortly after we doubled the size as we grew over there. And it's been, 40 years since we started the business, and we've been in Adams since 1989. And it's a growing business, and it continues to grow. And I had to think about the future, what's going to happen with Shine. And 2 years ago, I approached our family. I have 4 children who are all doing their own things throughout the country, and they didn't show an interest in coming back, which I have to respect. So what was the best way for us to preserve this wonderful little gem of a business in Adams? And we decided to say, okay, let's put our toes in the water and see what interest is out there. And there was an awful lot of interest. But this company from Virginia, Comsonics, came to the top for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the culture, what they think about people and how they treat people. Secondly, and most importantly for this community in Berkshire County in southern Vermont, is Comsonics is an ESOP. So all of the former Shine employees now are employee owners. It's an employee stock ownership program. So it's something I could never give the employees. I couldn't give them ownership the way it was structured prior. But now every single employee with Shine is an owner. Anybody new would be an owner. What a benefit. So as we talk to Comsonics and we get to know each other well, Comsonics, without taking a lot of John's good information, based out of Virginia, but they have companies that do similar work that we do in manufacturing. So we're looking at a much larger corporation now. The name Shine will remain. It's still going to be called Shine. It's Comsonics of Massachusetts. Finally, what really solidified the deal is when I met with Brett Harrison, the CEO, and John, was their commitment to the town of Adams, to Berkshire County, but most importantly, to the Shine employees. And right there, that just checked off just about every single box we had as a family to make sure the legacy of Shine is going to continue for many, many years to come. We're excited to be part of the Comsonics family. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to John Taylor, who will give you a little bit more information about Comsonics.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, John.
I'm going to steal this computer over here. I'm standing here, I can't see that. So thanks for having me, and thanks for coming out. Enjoyed your visit. Encourage the rest of you, if you have some time, come out and visit Shine. When people think about a wire and cable house, I don't know what they think of. But when you say wire and cable, it sounds pretty simple, right? But I can tell you at Shine Wire, in our facility, just like Shine Wire in Norcross, Georgia, these folks are doing some amazing things. We have cables assemblies on F-18 fighters. We have cable assemblies made right here in Adams, Mass. That are protecting the borders of this country. And these are not just one wire with a connector on. These are complex assemblies that you have to know what you're doing. And I'm going to give a shout out to all the Shine Wire employees tonight. That bunch here is a fantastic group of people. So I thought what I'd do tonight, since we're kind of new to town, is introduce you to Comsonics. First, I'll tell you about the executive team. Brett Harrison is our CEO. Brett's been with Comsonics since way back in the early 90s. He's had just about every job at Comsonics. He's done it all. Prior to his CEO role, he was a COO. There's not a crumble or a crust or a crevice at Comsonics that Brett isn't very aware of. He's a great individual, enjoy his company. Athena, our CFO, is one of these CPA types, used to work for auditing firms prior to taking on the roles at Comsonics. She's tough, she's thorough, she's dynamite. Our Director of Engineering and Product Management, Ken Couch, is an electrical engineer by training, had his MBA from Duke University, just one of those all-around really smart guys. Philip Bennett's our Vice President of Repair Services, and I'll kind of break down how Comsonics is organized in different business units. Bob Norris is Global Sales. That ugly third person there guy is me. And then our Director of Human Resources, Cindy, is there. But it's a fantastic leadership team. People ask me, why do I love Comsonics? I love the people I work with. Comsonics has been in operation for 54 years. It is 100% employee-owned S corporation. It's been 100% owned since 1985. And I believe if you check employee ownership, that makes us one of the oldest ESOP companies in the United States. And that's just not something that we say. If you hung around Comsonics a little bit, you realize everybody's an owner. And there's something about being an owner. We're a very transparent company. We don't have any secrets. We share all of the financials and balance sheets with every single owner. And that means they get to ask some real tough questions, and that's our job to make sure we answer those questions. We design, manufacture, and repair electronics and fiber optics. Right now, with Shine, we have about 327 employees across the United States, and we have 6 different locations. Obviously, you see the Adams Mass in there now. That makes us the 6 locations. Our products division at Comsonics, we engineer and design leakage detection and test instruments that all the cable houses are going to use to test leakage in the cable signal. I think in this area, Spectrum's pretty big. Charter, Comcast, all the big names would be buying our equipment to drive around your neighborhoods or come in your house and try to give you a better picture on your TV. You know, we all have 300 channels and there's nothing to watch, but when we decide to, we want it to be crystal clear, right? Comsonics was the first to come out with an RF leakage detection device, and then the first to come out with a digital RF leakage device, and currently holds 29 US patents in that technology. We have a public safety sector that was just established in 2011, and it's growing. We are one of the few state-certified people in the state of Virginia to calibrate police radar systems. We have LiDAR calibrations, license plate recognition. Most of the ACC colleges along the East Coast have Comsonics license plate technology in their parking garages. We go down to the SEC. But right now we're an ACC company, so I love college football. We also launched a new product earlier this year called the Portable Command Center. We partnered with the inventor of this, and this is an emergency response. Tragedies happen, bad things happen around the world, whether it be hurricanes, tornadoes, mudslides, you name it. Emergency responders have a tough task. The first thing I have to do is establish communications. Well, if it's bad enough and all the communications are knocked out, now what do? Most communities can't afford the $1 million trailer hookups that you'd have to be able to do that. I think we now have a solution in the Portable Command Center. It's got PK radio, police band radios, can have aeronautical radios. It's all self-contained. It is self-powered, has its own battery system. It also has a capability, it has a solar panel, can be charged up with the sunlight. So when it gets ugly, and you need to communicate, we have a product now that we just launched it earlier this year. We're starting to get some strong feedback from the federal government and from certain municipalities because of the price point being so much lower than what the alternative is. Repair Services has locations in Sacramento, California, just outside Indianapolis, and in Virginia. And they essentially repair electronics, primarily in the cable industry, and it would be everything that's outside your house. They don't repair the box that's inside your house, but everything outside, from amplifiers to power supplies, everything else. We have a sales force in Repair Services, and these guys are located all over the United States. They kind of live in their region, and they'll go to the multiple site operator, pick up what needs to repair, and either mail it back to Repair Center or take it there themselves. The Repair Services is actually the oldest business unit at Comsonics. Now we're into the manufacturing section. If you looked at my title, that's my favorite section. In Weirs Cave, Virginia, we have an electronic manufacturer, and they're manufacturing printed circuit board assemblies, top-level assemblies, doing testing, full integration. And the range of products these guys are working on will just knock your socks off, from troop detection systems to systems that go on submarines, the system that guides torpedoes to airplane systems, and then in the commercial world, a number of products. Really exciting stuff that these guys are working on. And then if you were to walk through Shine Wire and then walk through cable connections in Norcross, Georgia, you'd say, boy, these places look pretty similar. And they are. And they do a lot of the same things. And one of the reasons we were so excited about Shine is we've had great success at our cable and wire shop in Norcross, Georgia. But it's really, really hard to sell a cable and wire assembly in the Northeast from Georgia, because this business tends to be more regional. And so when we were able to stumble across and meet Greg and understand Shine, that got us excited, because we think we know what we're doing, or at least we're trying. And we found something very similar to what we've had success with in Adams, Mass. Then there's Shine Wire. Great group of people. I've really, really enjoyed getting to know them. I have a lot of fun with those folks. They are hardworking. They are very skilled people at what they do. They take what they do very, very, very seriously. Greg has created a culture. The story of Greg, here's a picture of his dad, Barney, hanging in Shine. And you hear that story, I just always felt like Barney was a guy I could have really enjoyed being around, right? And I think Greg's a lot like him, and Greg's carried that legacy on. We're excited about Shine. We're excited about Greg hanging in there and working with us post-acquisition. So we think we'll be able to continue to grow Shine and be able to have lots of synergies between our printed circuit board house and our outfit in Georgia. We're extremely excited about having Shine. We don't do acquisitions frequently. We're very, very selective in what we do, and so we're really, really excited. It's about finding the right fit for us, and we absolutely believe Shine's the right fit. Shine as a standalone company is a great company. It's a growing company. It's got a great skilled workforce, got great leadership at all levels, good group of people. They have tremendous organic growth opportunity. Just keep on doing what they're doing. But then when you put the synergies that Comsonics brings to the table, I think we're going to be able to pick and choose our growth opportunities. We'll have more growth opportunities than we can handle, so we'll be in a position to pick and choose. And we can add more value to our customers, and that's critical in our business. The more you can do for a customer, the more value you can add, the more important you become to that customer, and the more he appreciates what you do for him. Having a footprint in the Northeast. Sure, I can fly to Boston and rent a car and go knock on doors and say, let me quote on some of your business. And when they say, where are you from? I'll say, Weirs Cave, Virginia. They'll say, Weirs what? Right? They don't want to talk to you. But when you say, I've got a facility right here, just up the road in Adams, Mass, it's a totally different conversation. If you're interested, we are hiring, we are growing, and we are hiring. I'm very, very anxious to get to know the community more. One of Brett's edicts as a company is to be involved and active in the community. Just recently in Virginia, we had a group of middle school kids that are on a program called On the Road. And it's for underserved youth that are having a rough time. So we're trying to educate them on other alternatives. You know, they grow up thinking they got to go to college or they're a failure, right? So this program's to get them out into businesses and let them see what other people do and get them, build some interest. And these are middle school kids, right? They're about this tall. And we wear smocks in our facility because of electrostatic discharge. They put the smocks on, they look like dresses. If for nothing else, it was the cutest bunch of kids I've ever seen in my life. And to hear some of their comments about what they saw was just incredible. So I rely on you guys to help us be more active in your community by giving us ideas, and we'll certainly do it. Questions on comp science?
So you indicated you're hiring, which is great news. What are the skills that you're looking for? Is it a college degree, or is it from a trade school, or?
Trade school would be great. College degree, perhaps, not a requirement in my book. We're looking for more hand-eye coordination. We do a lot of hand soldering in the wire assembly business, and not just anybody. I can't do it. I'm old now, and my hands shake a little bit. But I look at a group of people that we have now, and every once in a while, somebody just gets it. We do have kind of an OJT training thing, and we take people through very slowly to help them develop the skills. We just want to, when we hire somebody, I always say the most important decision we make is the hiring decision. We're not just hiring an employee, we're hiring an owner, right? And so we pause, we take great care when we make that, because all the rest of the owners require that we make the right decision. So I think it's mechanical skill set that's more important to us, and a good work ethic and being willing to come be an owner.
Okay, Christine.
Oh, sure. So John, to follow up on this John's question about employees, you said company-wide you have about 327?
About 27.
How many of those employees are here in Adams? I think it's a good reminder.
38, 39, 40.
We were, well, close to 45 next week after a couple of folks show up.
We're hoping to get a few hired on board real quick, so.
And how many open positions here in Adams? You say you're hiring, so.
We have enough work, we could probably bring on, I'm gonna ballpark say 5 to 10 more, but here's the catch. I don't think we're ready to train 5 to 10 more all at once at the same time.
Right.
So it's kind of a 3 or 4, and then get them to a certain level to where then we can focus on. So it's more of a onboarding kind of thing than the number.
And then just a comment, I know Greg is hiding behind you, but you talked about the culture that he has created over there. It's been many years since I've been on a tour and walked through, but that was what I walked away with, was the culture and the family that you have created over in that building that has always stuck with me. And why I reach out every once in a while and go, hey Greg, did you think about this? So I'm happy that culture seems to be staying.
Absolutely.
And that you found somebody who can continue your work and your father's work to keep that going.
One of the most important things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Joe?
Yeah, first of all, Greg, thank you so much for what you've done for the community, and I've had conversations with you before.
Yes.
And I know that you're going to still stick around and be in the fold and help out, I'm sure.
Yes.
And I'd like to say, too, that I like the idea of employee ownership. It gives the people working there better incentive. So already you've got a great work crew there, and I think that will only make it better because they'll feel so much more a part of what they're doing, and the rewards will be there for them. And looking at the history, this goes back to 1968. There was a gentleman named Braun, and he was dabbling in broadband well before, it was popular. And I was quite interested in reading about him and that type of thing, and it's very interesting. And lastly, I really enjoyed looking at some of your professional measurement machines, for like vertical heights and for slope characteristics. I think those are certainly quite usable in a lot of fields, engineering and other ones. I found those quite interesting. And lastly, thank you for your faith here in the town of Adams, and has been mentioned by our fellow selectmen. We'll certainly be there to help you out and nurture yourself along. And I think you would mention it, but I think it's very important to get acquainted with the community and the members of the community, because that makes it even better. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Howard. Yes, I can, thank you, gentlemen. First of all, it's a fascinating presentation. In an earlier incarnation, I was a manufacturing engineer on the F-16 aircraft in Fort Worth, Texas, and I can assure you, agree with you, that the wiring harness was probably the most complex piece of equipment on the plane, because it had to connect everything with no failures at almost 1.5 times the speed of sound. So,
As a former Air Force officers, thank you.
so this is a very technical business you're in, which is a really good thing, because that's where the economy is going toward that. That's where the margins are and everything else. We're talking about the manufacturing of the wiring harnesses in these systems. Are you considering at some point or bringing more technical design functions here, and some of the front office down the road? Because across the border at RPI, there's some and MIT, and there's some really great technical resources in the state that can really help, the product design and creating more value added.
Absolutely. Something that'll be down the road for us, but
Yeah.
can't rule anything out at this point. We talk, Greg and I talk a lot, there's so much, this is brand new, right? We just started as Comsonics on April 1st, and we don't want the cart to get ahead of the horse, so to speak, and but we're just really excited to be here.
Thank you, and welcome. I'd like to get a tour of that.
Absolutely.
Anytime, yeah.
Yeah, we also have complex cabling wiring systems for ships and submarines that we, in Pittsfield had to get that in with General Dynamics. But we have the Navy, of course. We have our primes build the ships, but we help in the design and of the cabling, and that's part of what we do there. But
15 years at Newport News Shipbuilding.
good job. So the last question I have is the skills you're going to need here. And I'm sure that with Shine Wire, you've worked on developing skills and worked in, we do have a great vocational school, McCann School, which is in North Adams, great high school up here, and just great to see local individuals be able to either finish high school and be able to get a job, or go off to college and come back here,
Right.
and to get, and be able to live here and raise a family here. Because Adams has a great quality of life. It's a great sell. Adams is a great place to live. So I'm sure your new employees will definitely want to be here, and it's great to hear you're going to be part of the community also. Continue in that area. So it's just a great news story. Last thing is, we've had some businesses that where the owners are getting towards retirement, and they have children, and they just, in the same situation, they just they've got their own lives, and then sometimes it closes, but here it's a great story that and you're going to stay and help move this company forward, and it's a great win-win story for the town of Adams. And I want to thank you for coming out. You must came up from Georgia, or Virginia, I'm sorry. Virginia to present here, so I appreciate that too. And I also would like to have a tour at some point, so maybe we can organize something to come on over. So,
Sure.
But this is just great news for our community, and I want to thank both of you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay, you good?
No, just thanks again, gentlemen, for coming. We know this has been in the works for a while, so thank you for the time, and
Absolutely.
try to get John to be a second New England resident now.
Okay, next we have from the Mohawk Trail Woodlands Partnership, Hank Art. And Joe, you
Yep.
involved with this?
First of all, technical, we need to take this off the table and get it back on. So I'd like to make a motion to put the Mohawk Trail Woodland Partnership presentation back on the table, because it was tabled on May 18th. and I think you seconded it, Christine?
I did.
Okay, we have a motion by Joe.
I will second
Back to the table, Christine seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous.
And I'd like to take a little time to introduce Hank R. Hank R. is a professor emeritus from Williams College. He has an undergraduate degree from Dartmouth, and he has a PhD degree in forest ecology from Yale University, and he's taught at Williams College since 1970, and is still very active in the Williams College community, and because of his knowledge, I hope he continues to do so for quite some time. Hank is the chairman of the Mohawk Trail Woodlands Partnership, and speaking personally, I don't think there was a better person to be able to lead us because we're in uncharted territory. Our partnership is unique. It's a combination with state agencies and the federal government, and Hank did pretty well as we've been zigging and zagging, and we've had some really positive information come forward recently. So Hank, you're here to give the presentation. I thank you for it, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Joe. You almost have given my presentation, so I figured that. And I have some material here that Lisa Hayden, our administrative agent, gave me in a tree planting exercise we were at last week. And there's some talking points, which I'm not going to talk to the talking points, but they're there for your information. And I don't know whether you have,
everyone had a packet.
Everybody has packets. So there's some extra copies of a draft of the Woodland Partnership Plan for the next 10 years that can be given to the public. We'd like to get this information out to the public, and it's a pleasure being here this evening. And doing two things. One is to give you an update briefing on the partnership and what we've been doing. And probably more importantly is to find out how the partnership can be of assistance to the town of Adams specifically, and to the region in general. But let me start out with just a brief bit of history in addition to what Joe has provided. And Joe is on the executive committee of the partnership, and a valued member in terms of what he's bringing to it. The partnership is an outgrowth of the work of a consortium of regional planning agencies in coordination with 21 municipalities in northern Berkshire and western Franklin counties. The Massachusetts Office of Environmental Affairs is also a partner, as is the U.S. Forest Service. And we also have incorporated regional watershed associations, land trusts, economic development agencies, forestry associations, academic institutions that have come together to promote forest conservation and sustainable natural resource-based economic development of the region. This is all in lieu of having a national forest in Massachusetts. That was the original, wouldn't it be nice having a national forest? And the public reaction to that was, no, it would not be nice having a national forest within this region. It was viewed as we have a great deal of our land already owned by governmental agencies at the state and local level. And we want to have a tax base that is reflective of private ownership rather than non-tax-paying ownership. So the Mohawk Trail Woodlands Partnership became a reality through the passage of state legislation in 2018, and the U.S. Forest Service and Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs signing a shared stewardship framework the following year in 2019. So we are a public body that has to obey by the laws of the Commonwealth, and also has to be observant of federal regulations that the Forest Service imposes. We have been charged by state law to encourage, facilitate, and promote forest conservation and sustainable natural resource-based economic development in the most biologically diverse, densely forested region of the state, and a region in great need of economic development. This is a region that for millennia was a home to indigenous peoples with intimate knowledge of the landscape, and we hope to learn from them and to develop a relationship of land stewardship with those tribes whose ancestral homelands we now occupy. Our perspective on sustainable forest resource-based economic development includes long-term protection of forest lands through forest conservation restriction purchases, the promotion of sustainable forest production and forest products, and these range from the best sustainable practices for growing trees, for harvesting them, for manufacturing forest products, promoting sustainable tourism and recreation, and valuing the ecosystem services that our forests are providing, not only for our local residents, but for the region, the state, and global communities as well. These forest ecosystem services include clean air, clean water, wildlife, biodiversity, and carbon sequestration. Over the first 3 years of our existence as a public body, we have met regularly as a whole or in standing committees and have promoted public programs on sustainable forest use. We've provided $20,000 grants to the 17 participating municipalities of the 21 in the region, and have provided partnership-wide grants of $60,000, and also through the Mohawk Trail Woodland Partnership Entrepreneurial Challenge, organized by the Lever in North Adams, which is one of our economic development board members. We have provided expertise and grants to natural resource-based businesses in the partnership region. While the Mohawk Trail Woodland Partnership has not yet received an annual line item funding from either the state or the federal government, this is the zigging and zagging that Joe was referring to, that I've been, it's more like being inside a ping pong ball getting batted back and forth, I think. We are persistently requesting such funding, but in the interim, the Massachusetts Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs and the U.S. Forest Service has provided $1.6 million in grant funds to the region. So money has been flowing from the state. It just hasn't been as much under our control as we would have desired. Much of the good work has come in the form of these $20,000 grants to individual municipalities for projects that meet the partnership's goals. And the town of Adams has received several such grants, grants to assist the design of kiosks at trailheads and other interpretive resources for the Greylock Glen Conservation Area and Center, and the project will expand the partnership among town, Massachusetts Audubon Society, the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, and Williams College to design exhibit space for the Greylock Glen Education Center. And these exhibits will focus on forest and climate change. And it's also possible that next year, in a continuation of a grant that is ongoing to restore riparian and floodplain forests, that will be moving from the Deerfield River Basin into the Hoosick River Basin, and there's an opportunity for restoration of riparian forests that have been degraded over time. The draft of the Mohawk Trail Woodland Partnership Plan is going forward and is being revised from the outdated one that actually preceded our existence as a public body. And there are copies of the draft that you've been sent and are available to the public in hard copy. It's also available online through our website. And I've left some brochures that give the web address. So we encourage people to read the draft and to provide feedback. There's now a place on our website to provide comments of the draft, which we will later be accepting as our 10-year plan. But we have four main areas that we really want to focus on in the plan. The first being conserving forest lands for sustainable production of forest products and ecosystem services. And these components include providing technical assistance to private and public forest managers, advocating research on locally based forest economic activities, enabling the use of forests as sites of carbon sequestration, and enhancing ecosystem services. Eventually, we will, hopefully, by the end of the 10-year period, be able to start purchasing development rights and protecting forests in perpetuity. The second item is natural resource-based economic development to encourage local wood economy rather than having an exportation of most of our harvested trees of this region, that they are leaving the region and most of the time leaving the country and going to Canada for processing and then being re-imported. And we would like to foster a local wood movement, somewhat similar to the local food movement, that would lead to sustainable use of our resources and sustainable ecotourism within the region. The third aspect is to improve fiscal stability of municipalities within the region, in the recognition of the fact that much of our landscape is either owned by public institutions that don't pay taxes or some private institutions that don't pay taxes. We see one of the things that we'd like to do is to encourage the allocation of both sufficient and equitable payments in lieu of taxes from the state back to communities in recognition of what these lands are providing the Commonwealth. We'd like to provide assistance to towns to develop carbon credit projects, and actually as part of the a municipal vulnerability preparedness grant that was administered, Williamstown and Adams coordinated looking at the use of public lands, managing these forests for carbon sequestration, and perhaps monetizing the value of the carbon that we're sequestering and entering carbon offset markets. And we also want to take into effect that of the impact of if we should get to be purchasing forest conservation restrictions, that will have an economic impact on the tax base potentially. It shouldn't be much different than the impact of Chapter 61 lands, but we want the state to step up to the plate and recognize that those lands are providing a resource that should be compensated to the towns. And then finally, the fourth is public education regarding sustainable forest practices, the benefits that our forested landscape is providing us, and in the future, perhaps moving toward a multi-purpose Mohawk Trail Woodland Partnership Forest Center, not in competition with the Greylock Glen Center, but to be somehow coordinated with it. And it would likely be situated on the other side of the Berkshire Plateau in western Franklin County. We may be moving toward receiving a grant to start in a virtual mode with such a forest center to provide information to towns and to forest practitioners and to the public about sustainable forest management of the land. But that's enough of my presenting. I really would love to hear from you folks how the partnership could be of aid and assistance to what you have in mind, and if you've had an opportunity to skim over the draft if you have any immediate reactions to it, and then to encourage you and the public to visit our website, which is mohawktrailwoodlandspartnership.org, and Mohawk Trail Woodlands Partnership is one word, all run together. There is an opportunity there not only to see all of the materials that we have collected, and the minutes of all of our meetings and documents that we are accumulating, but also to make commentary on the draft of the 10-year plan, and to make comments that we would then incorporate in our plan is over the summer to be accumulating feedback on the draft, and then in very late summer, early fall, at our September or October board meeting, actually approve the plan and put it into effect. So with that, let me stop rambling on and see if I can answer any questions or get your observations.
Joe, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'd like to hear from the board, and while I do have the floor, people watching this broadcast of the Selectmen's meeting, please feel free to get on your computer and go to the Mohawk Trail Woodlands Partnership and see what our group is offering, and to make comments. It's very important so that we can craft a viable and good draft and put it into action.
Okay, Howard.
Thank you for coming, Hank. A lot of moving parts here. So to help me get my head around this, flash forward 5 or 10 years, and let's say the vision that you're presenting here, comes true. What would we be telling the community about the success and the impact on their lives in the town? Something tangible, how the world would look differently than it does today.
How the world would look differently is our forests would be better managed. 10 days ago, I had a meeting with the state forester and the regional foresters to talk about how they could participate in providing private owners as well as municipalities with better information on how to manage your forest in effect, have your trees and sequester carbon too, so that you could have forest products and you would not be diminishing the ability of the forest to take up carbon dioxide as part of a climate amelioration in terms of climate change. We would see, if in terms of benchmarks, what we'd be looking for, we'd be looking for a forest industry within the region in terms of actual production forests that are being better stewards, that the economics of that was not that we were exporting our wood to Canada. It would more be milled locally. Forest product industries using local wood would be thriving rather than disappearing. It's a whole part of our kind of cultural heritage that in the mid-19th century there were sawmills all over, perhaps overexploitation of our forest resources, but we were a wood-based economy. And that has been just disappearing. We're still logging within the region, but the logging trucks are not going to local family-owned sawmills or Kelly Hardwoods, which used to be down in Dalton and Pittsfield Line there. We used to have a fairly vibrant industry. We would have an opportunity to bring that back, but we would be bringing it back with the cooperation of the U.S. Forest Service and the state foresters and academic foresters from UMass and from University of Vermont has a very active lab that is looking at how can we manage our forests to increase carbon storage and at the same time have forest products being generated.
From an economic standpoint, this region is real in dire shortage of housing, and lumber is a big part of the housing cost.
Yeah.
Would you say that if we had a local lumber industry, the raw material cost to our builders would be less?
Well, you wouldn't have the transportation costs. You wouldn't be importing from British Columbia, from the Amazon, from as far-flung places, and that has a huge carbon. Wood is heavy to transport. You're not, it's going by ship, which is a little more efficient than by air, but it's still a huge cost. And UMass now has a laboratory that's dedicated to looking at how can we manufacture wood for use in structural elements, and they've come up with wood beams that are stronger per unit weight than steel and are durable, and I think that the opportunities there are enormous, and it's not an either or.
Right.
We have the most forested and the most diversely forested region in Massachusetts, if not New England. I mean, we have more forest types ranging from boreal forests up on the tops of above 2,000 feet in elevation to oak hickory forests on the southern slopes and northern hardwood forests. We have enormous opportunities in terms of the diversity of our forests, which put us in very good position as climate is changing, because we have great diversity of species that can grow under different environmental conditions. But I think they're both economic indicators and they're biological indicators in terms of we would probably do more forest management of trying to control. We can't eliminate, but we can control these invasive exotics that are sapping our forests in terms of their productive capacity. We could be using that material, which has carbon in it, for various kinds of carbon products. 10 years from now, we would hope.
Do you have industry people on the, like forest lumber products people on this?
We have the Society of American Forest Yankee Division, and we have the Executive Office of Environmental Energy and Environmental Affairs that has the DCR forestry people. They're represented. We have the New England Forestry Association, or New England Forestry Alliance on it. So we have, to date, to be honest, we have spent more grant money funding sustainable ecotourism than we have actual forest production. This year's Forest Partnership Challenge through Lever actually was awarded to a company that's manufacturing wood products with local wood.
Okay.
So, we would love to see this forest center be actually a place where people could come, and if you're building your house, you could find out where could you get local wood.
Right.
Because right now, when I did a renovation 10 years ago, I saw a logging truck down the road from where I live loading, and it had a Massachusetts license plate, and I followed it down to Russell, Massachusetts, where there's a family sawmill, and actually purchased the flooring for our house from this local mill, which to me it was just wonderful serendipity. It was not planned. I just happened to see the truck with its label. And
Thank you. Thank you very much.
but I think there are lots of benchmarks that we can use.
Christine?
Hank, thank you so much for coming in and educating at least myself. This was a really great snapshot of what the partnership is and what the partnership has been doing. So I appreciate the really comprehensive presentation. And thank you for also mentioning that the 10-year plan is going to be approved at September or October, because in the documents it had said it was being approved at the annual meeting on June 7th. So I was trying to figure out how we can get the message out.
That, when we originally contacted you, that was our hope,
Okay.
but we decided we needed to get more feedback from the public and from municipalities before. We weren't going to rush into this, and we wanted to do it right rather than do it fast.
Great, that's really great to hear. And are you getting good feedback from people? And are we
I've met
reaching them?
with a couple of select boards, as have other members and our administrative agent, and we're just kind of pulling that all together. I think it's a little bit early yet, because it's kind of like the python swallowing a goat. You know, it's a big 10 years with lots of moving parts, as you say. And so we're going to have to do the digesting probably in July and August to make sure that we get the feedback back. But we would love to have the public, because this is a plan that's quite different than the original one that was done back in 2015, that had some public outcry about the prominence of wood pellets and wood chips and combusting wood, and the fear was that we were going to start down the slippery slope of clear cutting and shipping our forest resources abroad, which is not. And fortunately, the public made those comments heard, and the law was changed, and we are legally forbidden from doing any sort of sponsorship or funding of wood pellets or clear cutting. So this represents I think a wonderful approach to trying to be sustainable and use wood for its highest and best uses.
And so for people who are listening, when, you know, with iBerkshires here in the room, you would be encouraging folks to get their comments in during the month of June, so that the
June?
partnership could get their work done in July and August.
That would be wonderful. So go to the website.
Yeah, and, you know, reading through the plan, I'm not surprised to see there's some educational components as well, since you are an educator, and it seems like there are quite a few in there. Because I think more education, you know, we've had conversations in some of our workshops about the land and municipally owned land and what that could mean for communities and so forth. And it was nice to see that there is that municipal assistance and educational components in your plan. So I wanted to comment on that, and I'll go through it a little bit more, and I'll probably have more questions that I hope you don't mind if I reach out and ask some more direct questions.
Please do.
Okay.
Please do. And you can either reach out to me or the administrative assistant, Lisa Hayden, who's with the New England Forestry Foundation. So that's another kind of professional forestry conservation organization that is providing the administration for the partnership.
And the lever grants, what's that time frame the partnership reaches out to local entrepreneurs for?
Yeah, it's Lever has had two. The first one went to Foolhardy Hill Campground in Charlemont, and I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember the name of the organization that won the one in April. I was out of town when that happened, but it was I think they're in Lanesboro. They manufacture small wooden trailer, teardrop trailers out of local wood. And it had Hall Tavern Farm, which is a sawmill, was one of the 4 finalists in that. And, you know, in a way, all the participants in that program win because they have a business plan that the Lever helps them construct, and the winner actually gets money, but the others get expertise in the process.
Right. And it's nice to see you working with Williams and MCLA students for some research as well.
Yeah, we've involved Williams, MCLA, Conway School of Landscape Design, did the just an incredible piece of work on riparian forest restoration through this grant, the $60,000 grant that we got from the U.S. Forest Service. Yeah, that's a 3-year grant. We had the first part in Franklin County over in Conway last week, and then this next year it'll be moving over to the Hoosick Valley.
Thank you.
I can remember when this program began with the BRPC, and it's really taken off and really has really good membership and support. Hopefully everyone can provide good comments, and look forward to your final report, and hopefully, I'm sure Joe will make sure we get a copy of that. So we look forward to that. So I wanted to thank you for coming to our meeting and educating our public who are watching in this evening, and hopefully be able to get lots of comments for you.
Wonderful. It's been my pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hank. And
Thank you.
one last thing I'd like to say is you can see why Hank is our chairman. Very knowledgeable. Yes, come on. Don't be shy. And forest ecology is, Hank can testify to. Our forests are in decline, some of our tree species, and it's important that, as you had mentioned, invasives, and those are things we're looking at. So thanks again for coming down. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hank.
All right, next we have from the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission to discuss the Berkshire Benchmarks, Mark Mohawk.
Thanks, John.
You have your laptop, and get you hooked up there.
Ian, drag that right to the edge, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
To the edge.
There we go. Good evening, everyone. I know you all, but so I'm here to talk about Berkshire Benchmarks, and we just released a state report.
Thank you.
Last Monday this was released, and so I just want to briefly go over what Berkshire Benchmarks is and the State of the County report. It's an hour-and-a-half long presentation, so I'm cutting it super short. So what is Berkshire Benchmarks? Berkshire Benchmarks started about a dozen years ago, primarily as a website to present data on the region, berkshirebenchmarks.org. Lots of data on the region. That was primarily how it was used. And then in 2019, the Berkshire Leadership Impact Council, which is a number of larger community organizations and businesses and education institutions, they decided to start using indicators to kind of figure out what's going on in the region and move forward with that. So they hired Berkshire Regional Planning Commission and for Berkshire Benchmarks to create some regional indicators on the region. And these are really just data points that we're tracking over time that are important for the community to watch. So how did we do that? We had a whole team of people who came up with over 300 potential indicators on the region. We then selected, or we had over 100 community organizations and individuals come together across 8 different sectors to narrow that list down. We ended up coming up with 82 indicators, 32 key indicators. Not everyone's going to agree with every indicator, but this is kind of as a consensus what the larger group agreed on. We also did a survey. It was sent out to every mailbox in the county in January. We had around 3,000 questions, not as much as we wanted, but it was representative of the population geographically, age, income, racially. So we feel it's pretty representative. So that's the super quick background on Berkshire Benchmarks. So I want to go into the State of the County report. There's a number of successes and challenges we have seen over the last few years as a region. So I'm just going to touch on these quickly. So our income levels, median household income has gone up over the last 10 years. We're at 62,000. We're still less than the state, still less than the nation, significantly less than the state. So that does get to the competitiveness of our region. We're not as competitive as the eastern part of the state, just because we can't pay as well, over $20,000 less on average. So quite a bit different, but it is going up, so that's good for us as a region. We've seen a decrease in unemployment post-pandemic. So from 2010, at the height of the recession, to 2019, our unemployment dropped from it was around 10%, down to 3.9%. We saw the unemployment spike with COVID, up to 9.1% in the county. The annual average in 2021 had dropped back down to 6.5%. We know in March it was down to 4.9%, and I think just earlier this week, the April numbers came out and it was 3 point something, or maybe low fours, I can't recall. So anyways, it's continuing to go down, and that's a good thing for the region. Academics, our children have struggled academically over the last couple of years with COVID. People may take issue with standardized testing, but this is one of the measures. Third grade English proficiency in next-gen MCAS declined somewhat. We're below the state. But when we look at 8th grade math, so these are the two standardized testing items that the team selected. 8th grade math was significant decline over the last few years. This actually started before the pandemic. I'll mention there was no test in 2020, so that's why it jumps from 19 to 21. So only 17.6% of our 8th grade students are proficient or advanced in math, which is quite poor, I guess I'll say. And it's less than half of what the state is. And we've also declined by over 50% in the last few years. So we see struggling academics. In certain parts, we're seeing healthier environment. And again, this is based on the indicators. So this is air quality, the annual average ambient concentration of particulate matter, 2.5 micrograms per cubic meter. Anyways, that has dropped from 13 down to, what is it today, 6 over the last 20 years. So our air quality has improved. And this measure is the particulate matter that really impacts respiratory problems and health issues is linked to this. We're also seeing more protected land. 40% of the county is now protected, and that continues to go up every year. I just got a newsletter thing from BNRC, and they're looking at getting another 2,000 acres this coming year. So protected land continues to go up. Endangered species and agricultural land protection also continues to go up. Something close to all of your hearts. We're seeing an increased reliance on property taxes. So since 2003, local property tax as a percentage of your revenue has gone up from 50% to 60%. Now this is the countywide average. While state revenue has decreased from 27% down to 20%. Doesn't mean we're getting less money from the state, it's just a smaller portion of our budget. So increased reliance on local property taxes. We're seeing worsening mental health. So mentally unhealthy days, the number of days in the last 30 days you report as being mentally unhealthy, it's gone up to 5 days per month, which is quite a bit, up from just over 3.5. Another component of worsening mental health is opioid-related deaths. Since 2010, we were at 4, and now we're at 56. And you can see from that chart, it's almost a straight line going up. There's only 2 years where that number went down. There's many causes of opioid-related deaths, but mental health is a huge component of that. Decreasing housing affordability. Now this is actually an area where the indicators don't tell the full story, or even an accurate story. Most of our data uses American Community Survey or other data points that may be a couple years old. So this is ACS data from 2020. It's actually a 5-year average from 2016 to 20, because that's all we can get that's accurate for our region. That doesn't really include a lot of the high housing costs that we've seen over the last 2 years, the skyrocketing prices. At this time, we saw a surplus countywide for low-income units, shortage in middle and moderate income. We think we now have a shortage across the board on that. This also is what people currently pay. So if you're in a house and you've been in that house for 30 or 40 years, you're not paying much, it's very affordable to you. So that, again, it doesn't tell the full story, this indicator, but we know housing is a huge issue in the region. We've seen a decrease in poverty. This is something that's is really good for the region. We went from midway between the state and nation to now being below the state, down to 5.9%, a drop of 4% in 7 years. This is, again, 2020 data. We think poverty rates have gone back up a bit in the last year or two. We're hearing from social service organizations that they're seeing increases in poverty. So we'll have to wait a couple of years and see what comes out of this. Increasing families in distress. So restraining orders have gone up since 2015 from, 956 to now over 1,160. Not as high as 2012, but it's still been going up, so something we want to watch. Another component of that, child requiring assistance filings, has gone up 53% since 2018, so quite a lot there. One more bad area, disparities by race and ethnicity. Every data set that we can see it broken down by race and ethnicity, we see differences. So this one shows median household income. You can see white median household income is $63,500. The black median household income, $27,500. And when you look at the change over the last 10 years, whites have seen 27% increase, blacks have seen a 13% decrease. And that's not adjusted for inflation. So once you do that, it's an even greater decrease. Similarly, poverty, whites are at 8.4%, blacks 31%. Most of our races have gone down, and blacks have actually stayed a bit more stable. You can ignore 2013 in that data. That's just a data glitch with the ACS. There was issues with poverty measures in 2013. One more look at that home ownership rate. 72% of white families own a home, 28% of black families. Everything's going up, which is great, but it's still far below. The Berkshire NAACP announced a report a couple months ago on redlining in Pittsfield, and I think this really helps show that point. I'm going to close on a good thing. So we've seen a stability in our young adult population. If many of you were around 2014, 15, there was a lot of discussion about the loss of the young adults. And that seems to have stopped or at least stabilized. So if you look at 25 to 44-year-olds, it's a relatively stable population. We're still losing some, but we're gaining new ones at the same time, so it's holding steady. It doesn't mean we're not going to lose population. As baby boomers retire or move on and pass, we're still going to lose population, but it's not going to be as bad as we expected because of that stability. So we have some good successes and we have some challenges. A lot of work has gone into a lot of those successes, and we need to celebrate those. But there's a lot of work to do on the challenges. And there's a lot of organizations already working on those things, trying to address those very issues. So as a region, I think we need to be optimistic, but also honest that we have things to work on. I will mention BerkshireBenchmarks.org. It's a whole new revised website. Bit easier access to data. You can also access all of the 82 indicators and really dig into the data, so you can play with it and see how many of the data points change by town or by subgroups of the population. You can look at the survey results. You can look at what other organizations in the region are doing to try and address some of those issues within that sector. So a lot going on, super quick version of this. You can also go online. PCTV recorded the entire event, and you can watch that, and we'll be posting that on BerkshireBenchmarks.org as well soon. Any questions?
So you mentioned each individual community has its own data, correct? So you can go out there and look at Adams' data.
Right, so there's two things I'll mention on the website. Within the indicators, some of the indicators you can see by town. So you can go to median household income and you can choose Adams and see how Adams fits into the county or the state nation. There's also within the data library section a community profile. So you can click on Adams and you can get a ton of data just on Adams. So you don't have to go around digging through the whole data library looking for what you need. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Joe, questions?
No, I've always been very impressed with Berkshire Regional Planning. You certainly have a wealth of information, and it's a lot to digest here.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. There's some things that really need, that I was surprised, and I'm going to take a look at this a little bit more closely. And Mark, I didn't recognize you with the haircut there when you came up and you were in the back there. I didn't recognize you.
It's been a few years. I
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay, Howard.
That's a lot of data.
You just look stunned, yeah.
Now, I can see that the difficulty on an aggregate level, because the communities are so different.
Yeah.
The difference between Williamstown and Pittsfield, it's just, so yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look at the Adams-specific data to really get a feel of what's happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and exactly like you said, every town's a little different. Much of our data is driven by Pittsfield. You know, they're a third of our population, over a third. But we have some towns that are doing great in many of these things. Same thing with schools. Some of our schools are fantastic. Some of them are struggling. So it's a mix throughout the region.
Okay, Christine.
Thank you, Mark, for coming. I think I met you early on when you were giving the gloom and doom Berkshire County
Thanks for
population
bringing that up.
presentations. So this was nice to hear that it's not as much gloom and doom about 10 years later. I just have to comment, so I'm on the Berkshire Benchmarks webpage and looking at the Adams data. This is really well put together for people to search information. It's nice to see the generational breakdown as well, so you can see the Gen Z, millennials, and those are good numbers for here in Adams, and the household number of just over 3,900 households. So it's, but I too am going to have to dive into a little bit more of the data, because there were some flags that you raised here and things that need to be addressed. The disparities that we're seeing in communities, and I'd like to see kind of where that falls particularly for Adams, and if there are things that could be addressed.
One thing I will mention, as part of the not all data is available at the county level, these are samples. You know, the ACS is a 1% a year, so 5% for the 5-year average. With our smaller communities, I can tell you the poverty rate, and I can tell you our racial breakdown. I can't tell you poverty by race, because the margin of error is so big on that data. I can tell you it at the county level, but not at the municipal level. So, you know, you need to, some of it's just, you won't be able to see it. But there's still a lot of data at the municipal level you can dig into.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment? I would like to suggest that we consider having a workshop with the Adams-specific data and what the implications are for the town.
Yeah, that sounds fine. That was similar to a question I was wondering is, what are the actions taken from, we have all this data, but
Yes,
are there,
but-
and it seems like some things have leveled out. Some areas are better, so there may have been some actions taken, but how's that work?
So this is intended to be simply a benchmark of where we are today, and we're going to update this report each year moving forward. It's really up to the community to, what do we do with this? How do we as a community work to increase our median household income, for example? The Berkshire Leadership Impact Council will be taking all this and trying to figure out what they want to do. But there was a lot of community organizations at the meeting last week, and some of them are focusing on the mental health, some are focusing on housing, some are, so it's really, myself at Berkshire Benchmarks, I cannot tell you what to do or what should be done. I rely on the experts who are out there to figure out what to do with the housing crisis. So it's really just, this is just the data.
Okay, so possibly we may invite you back to go
I'll be
over
back in.
the Adams data with us, maybe others from BRPC, but Mark, thank you for providing this information to us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have on the agenda, review and approve fiscal year 23 transfer station fees. Jay?
Thank you, John. As everybody knows, in June, we take a look at the transfer station fees for our residential permit use and bag tags. As we discussed at the Finance Committee and joint Selectmen workshops just a few weeks ago, it is the recommendation that we leave those permit fees alone this year at $75 for a residential permit. We leave the additional permit per household, replacement permit or additional permit at $10, and that we leave the bag tags alone at $1.20. I'm pleased to bring this information to the board. We're all aware of the increase in costs of not only municipal government, but what effect that has on the local households that we have. Just some quick numbers for the folks at home to understand. We fund the transfer station in two mechanisms. We fund it through a part of the budget, which is part of the tax levy, and that budget is $59,625. And then we also fund it through a revolving fund, and what funds the revolving fund are the permit fees and the bag tags. So we have two sources of fundings. The numbers so far, fiscal year to date, and we're getting close to the end, which is June. Our budget appropriation from fiscal 22 was $59,625. To date, we've expended $25,473.81, leaving a projected balance of $34,151.19. What does this mean? It means we're not hitting the budget portion, the tax-funded portion, as much as we are the revolving fund, which is the correct methodology for paying for transfer station expenses. What does the revolving fund look like? The revolving fund revenues for fiscal year 22 were $59,457.50. The fund expenses year to date, fiscal year to date, $43,711.34, leaving a revolving fund balance to date projected of $15,746.16. What does all those numbers mean for people sitting at home thinking, all right, what does that translate to? It means we're getting close to being able to say that the transfer station is paying for itself, but we're not there yet. but that doesn't necessarily mean that we want to rush out and recommend that we raise the permits. The treasurer's office is indicating, I didn't bring that data, I did give it to you at the Finance Committee, but the number of people purchasing those permit fees is increasing. I think people are finding the feedback that we get is that it's a competitive price compared to curbside pickup or other transfer stations that will take an out-of-town permit. So our recommendation is to have the board vote to leave those alone. I believe this will be the third consecutive year that we have not raised permit fees. We're going to continue to look at the data. Our goal would be to eventually be able to reduce the amount of money that is in the transfer station budget, thus reducing the amount of money that goes into on the tax levy. I can't say we're there yet, and there's so many different variables that go into transfer station economics. I think that's important to allow the folks at home to understand. If more people begin using the transfer station, it begins to pay for itself. If we raise the permit fees too high, people look at it and say, you know, it's more cost effective for me to do something else, and we begin to lose revenue. There's, as you know, maybe Mark can because he's good with data, but there's really no way to predict that. All we can use year to year over data. So I don't think we're there yet to raise it, nor do I think we're there yet to reduce the budget amount, but we're getting close. We'll continue to monitor it. We'll continue to have workshops on it as we go and we have the data. But we would recommend tonight, staff would recommend tonight that the board vote to keep the fee structure the same.
I saw on the website that during certain days, Thursdays during the summer into September that were open. Is that it begins in May? Are we doing that right now?
We are open, and as of right now, we haven't seen more than 10 residents at any given time on a Thursday. I've asked the transfer station attendant to keep track on a weekly basis, keep that data. That data hasn't been tracked. It's time to keep tracking it. It does cost us to have the transfer station attendant there. It's straight time, it's not overtime. But if people aren't using that service, legitimately making a decision, it's not convenient for us, we're not going to use it, then we shouldn't staff it. However, we also don't know, maybe people still don't know that that's an option for them. As I've spoken about before, right now, the transfer station attendant is also a custodian with our facilities department. As we've talked about ad infinitum in the budget development process, we really need that person working in the public buildings. So we'd like to eventually hire a transfer station attendant that's paid for from that revolving fund, and perhaps we can offer longer hours, daylight hours as well. We anticipate, transfer station annual cost attendant with benefits is probably around $14,000 to $15,000. So we're looking to continue to tweak it. I don't see, any need to eliminate that service just yet, but the finances are looking good, and hopefully we can continue to dial in and make it better, and eventually reduce that $59,000 impact to the tax levy.
Okay, what is the board's pleasure on this?
I'd like to make a motion to keep the fiscal '23 transfer station fees at the same rate of $75 for a permit, additional permit per household at $10, bag tags at $1.20 each. I think that's all the fees.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay, we have a motion by Christine. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Howard. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions for Jay. Jay, how long are we, is our contract with the hauler good for?
I think it was 5 years, and I think we signed that 2021, and that's through Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District. Linda Cernick and NBSW, they did a good job dialing that in. But that's like anything else, the more pulls we have, costs go up. So more people use it, it also increase our costs, which is where that balance is between the two. So I think we're in a 5-year window.
Yeah, that's good that we're at the beginning of it, because with fuel costs and things could certainly skyrocket very quickly.
Yes.
And I think looking at just 1,000 or 10,000, I believe you said, right, then we'd be breaking even?
Yeah, I think we should probably look at it more like 15 or 20 to give us some cushion. You don't want to bring that revolving fund down to zero.
Right.
You want some level of money in there to be able to seed your expenses going into the fiscal year. All that money comes into the revolving fund really May, June, July, as people begin to buy their permits. It's loaded up front. So I would say $15,000 to $20,000, we start to really look at that gap.
Yeah, and I think, just a comment, I think people show a lot of pride. I think they enjoy going up to the landfill with their, you know, their returnables and things. You go up there, it's almost like a little social gathering for
It is, yeah.
people. So that's all I have.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None, unanimous decision. And the final item on the new business is review and approve an addition of bylaw rescission to fiscal year 2023 town meeting. The warrant is the garbage disposal requirement. Jay?
I apologize that this is coming before the board kind of in a weird manner. We thought we were very comprehensive in putting together the town meeting warrant this year, but one thing slipped through. Obviously, there was some significant things on the warrant this year, some property acquisitions. This one slipped through. Former Selectman Mr. Sommer made us aware very quickly that we forgot it. It was his research and his studying that made us look at this. So just to remind everybody, the board held a workshop sometime over the winter at Mr. Summers' request. The section of the bylaws that are building construction, so these are things that the town requires above and beyond the state building code, section 22-7. We require, as a town, garbage disposals required in new building units, whether it's multi-family or single-family. No other community has those. There's no need for them. Our wastewater treatment plant operator, the DPW that manages the collection system, our building inspector, the health department, there's no reason anymore to have this. In fact, if you were to do a quick research and look at data, the trend is actually moving in the opposite direction away from them. So it's time just to modernize our bylaws, remove it. It is a cost for new development in the town, particularly multifamily development. So Don brought it to our attention, we researched it, and we feel the best mechanism for this is to put it in front of town meeting and ask for a town meeting vote to rescind it. And I believe it was put into place approximately 1970.
So you're asking us to dispose of the garbage disposal requirement?
Touche, yes.
Okay.
Okay, can we have a motion first to reopen the town meeting warrant?
I'll make a motion to reopen the town meeting warrant.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I second it.
Second by Howard, any discussion?
I was just wondering, just out of clarity, did you speak to the town council? Is that amendable to be able to do that, to reopen it?
Yes,
Okay.
this is
Okay.
his process.
Yeah, because I didn't see it.
Do you have a copy of this?
No, I don't.
It's in your packet.
Yeah, I went up to get my packet, I
Here,
didn't
just
have
pass
it. It
that
wasn't
down
in
to
the
Joe.
box.
I think we talked about this.
Yeah, we
before.
did, okay, yeah, that's all I wanted to know,
Sure.
the legality of it, that's all.
Yeah, good question. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on reopening the town meeting warrant? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, unanimous. Okay, what is the board's pleasure in regards to this warrant?
I will make a motion to add the following to the town meeting warrant.
We want to rescind the bylaw.
Yeah, to rescind the following bylaw or take any other action relative thereto. For the bylaw 22-7, garbage disposals required in new building units.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Howard. I will read the warrant. Every dwelling unit constructed after the date of enactment of this section which discharges into a municipal sewage system shall have installed and maintained in a kitchen sink in accordance with acceptable plumbing standards, a disposal unit for the grinding of food waste into water carried pulp. And the motion is to rescind this, to remove this as a bylaw for the town of Adams. Do we have and you had a second, Howard? Okay. Any discussion on this addition to the warrants? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. Can we have a motion to close town meeting warrant?
I'll make a motion to close the town meeting warrant.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Howard, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, none, unanimous. Subcommittee liaison reports, for the next meeting, I'll get it out sooner. For the next meeting, that we will go over our subcommittee liaison appointments at the next regular meeting. We will also go over appointing, what is that specific list called that we appoint?
Annual appointments.
The annual appointments, that will be at the next meeting. The board will review those and make decisions and approve those. Any subcommittee liaison reports? We'll start over at Howard.
None for me.
Christine?
None.
Joe?
We had an executive meeting of the Mohawk Trail Woodlands Partnership, and as Vice Chairman Hoyt noticed that we did come back and we felt that we didn't need more time, and we decided that it's going to be in October so we can get more feedback from the public on our plan. And other things that were discussed were taken up by Professor Art when he was here. And I also attended the local government committee looking over bylaws, and I think they're moving along nicely, and I think that there'll be a good product that comes from that.
It's good to hear. Did they indicate at the meeting that the chair will come and discuss with the board their progress?
At their next meeting, they're going to hone in a little bit more on the specific topics, which frankly is quite broad,
Yeah, it is.
which is not a surprise to anybody. Once they have that list and they have a general consensus that that's what they want to look at, they'll come and report to the select board.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, announcements and go to the order. Well, this is also in regards to liaisons, which this is from the the BRTA, Berkshire Regional Transit Authority, and they are looking for a representative from the town of Adams to be on the advisory board. I know, Christine, you have been on this board, but you're looking to step down from this one. So they're looking for a response by June 15th, and we're not going to meet by then, but I'm sure we can push it out a few more days to our next meeting, which is fairly right after that. So at the next meeting, we also, anyone interested in being the liaison or the representative to advisory board, we will discuss that at the next meeting.
If I could just
Sure, go ahead.
mention, so I've been serving on that board for 4 years. It's a county-wide organization. Adams has a strong voice at that table. It has been recommended that a selectman serve on the advisory board. Unfortunately, my work schedule has changed, and I'm unable to attend many of the meetings due to conflicts with work. So I feel that somebody who can give of the time, they meet usually the third Thursday at 4 p.m. If there was somebody on this board who could give of their time, that would be better. It would be a better way to serve the town of Adams than I've been able to in recent months.
Okay, thank you. We do, the Alzheimer's, should I read that off? We had, this was given to at least myself, the Alzheimer's Association, the longest day is June 21st, 2022. It appears sponsored by the Adams Council on Aging. They will be hosting events at the COA throughout the longest day for those who have been diagnosed and their dedicated caregivers. Programs include yoga, exercise classes, drumming workshop, live music, lunch crafts, and more. They also asked that purple ribbons be placed at town buildings to encourage folks to wear purple to show your support. So normally we have some individuals come in to speak to us about this. But this is the Adams Council on Aging. You can give them a call at 743-8333.
Sarah spoke about it at the last.
Oh, she did?
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry about that. I guess I better go. And,
During the day, because that's town meeting night.
oh, that's right, that's time.
But you can wear purple
I
to
can wear
town
purple.
meeting.
Yes. Okay, Joe, anything else under announcements go to the order?
Yes, a few things. I would like, if possible, someone to get a hold of the owner of that parcel across the street and the one down near the Armory. Very unsightly. I think if people own property in this community, they should take care of it, and it really looks unsightly. I think everybody who's gone by can attest to that. So I know the gentleman that owns the parcel across the street, I'm not going to say his name or anything, but they need to step forward, I believe. And
Jay, I'm sorry.
yeah, it's been brought to my attention by numerous people that it's an eyesore, and I hope somehow it can be looked at and taken care of. And lastly, I believe today is Deb's last meeting. And I just once again would like to thank her for her hard work for our community over the years. She's really been a peach as far as when I ever needed anything, she was right there for me, and I think she served the town of Adams well during her tenure, and I wish her the best in her new undertakings.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, I agree. You've been here for how many years?
About 9.
9, or as almost as long as myself, Joe, and Rick have been
9,
here.
something like that. We're just together.
Wanted to thank you for all your support, keeping me straight. And you know, when you go on to your next position, you can always think back that you did make a positive difference for the town of Adams.
Thank
You
you.
can always think about that throughout life that you did.
Appreciate that.
Okay, Christine.
Thank you, Deb. I appreciate everything, and you and I have had the conversations over the last couple of weeks, so I'll keep those conversations to the two of us. In addition to thanking Deb, I do have a couple of thank yous that I also wanted to mention. I wanted to thank the American Legion for their coordination of the annual Memorial Day parade and ceremony, and I want to thank all of the participants, all of our first responders, the Hoosick Valley Marching Band, and I especially enjoy the participants on their decorated bicycles. So I thank the Adams Police Department for coordinating that again this year. And it was a beautiful ceremony up at the cemetery. We couldn't have asked for better weather, quite honestly.
Don't forget the vintage car guys.
Yes, the vintage car
Shout
guys.
out.
Yes. I also wanted to congratulate our graduates, the class of 2022. We have 3 graduations this week. McCann's graduation was moved from this evening to tomorrow evening, so the McCann graduates will be tomorrow. Hoosick Valley graduates Friday evening, and Bart's graduation is this Saturday. So congratulations to all members of the class of 2022, and while I'm congratulating some of our students, if you didn't know, you would have known last night when you heard all of the sirens in town that the Hoosick softball team won their Western Mass Championship. So congratulations to them, and thank you to our first responders for welcoming them home in grand fashion. And I wanted to thank and congratulate the Firehouse Cafe. We had a ribbon cutting for them last Thursday. They have been open now for 3 nights of business. I will tell you, I was there this evening prior to this meeting. It was absolutely delicious, and I encourage people to go and have dinner as well. And I think that might be all of my announcements.
Are they still open after the meeting?
They might be.
Okay.
Are you buying?
Moving right along. Deb, thank you for the work you've done. It's amazing. The paperwork, just goes on and on and on.
Amazing paperwork.
Thank you.
All set, Howard?
Yeah.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. This meeting has ended.